everyone. The purpose of this video is to do a brief review on the incredible journey on the hydrological cycle. Our learning goals for this section are we're going to interpret a diagram of the water cycle and explain the interacting processes that occur between the stages of the water cycle, and also discuss the physical changes and events that occur during the cycle. Now, this incredible journey that we're going to be discussing is all about this elegant molecule H2O and how all life on our planet is dependent upon it. We also know that water almost never leaves the Earth, and if it does, it's only in very minute amounts to the exosphere, and it's constantly being cycled through the atmosphere, ocean, and land. And this process again is known as the water cycle, and it's driven by energy from the sun. Now, our essential vocabulary for this unit, you'll need to add these to your essential vocabulary list, include the following: condensation, precipitation, surface runoff, infiltration, evaporation. And what I've done here for you is I've given you a little study guide. When you're referring to condensation, you're talking about from a gas to a liquid. Precipitation is you're discussing a liquid form of water. Evaporation is liquid to gas. The condensation nuclei that help form the cloud formations. One of the zones where water is stored, the groundwater, and the saturated versus the unsaturated zone. And then when plants sweat, or the evaporation of plants, called transpiration. And then sublimation, the unique event that happens during the water cycle, when water goes from a solid, an ice, to a gas. Again, please create definitions in your own words and also images for each to help in your study guides. Next, the water cycle. Now, the water cycle, we know, is interactive and dynamic. Again, the interactions between where the majority of water on Earth is stored in our oceans, the processes of condensation and evaporation, transpiration from plants on land, surface runoff that happens in a natural environment, and also what we call anthropogenic surface runoff, where we have impenetrable surfaces such as asphalt and cement. We have stream flow, the water that's stored in our atmosphere, the water that's stored in ice and snow, and then consequently the precipitation that occurs, the melting of our snow and ice, and then infiltration into our groundwater, where it's then either recharged into freshwater sources such as a river or a lake or a stream, or into the ocean. Now, when you are in your lesson plan for the water cycle, there's this wonderful interactive unit that you can click on that talks about these wonderful definitions and explanations between each stage in the water cycle. We're also going to be doing a very interesting, fun, and interactive game called the Water Cycle, The Incredible Journey, where you're going to be tracking a water molecule as it moves from ice to water, to groundwater, to plants, to animals, back into the atmosphere. You're going to be tracking it through its adventures, its incredible journey that it takes. Another focus of the lesson is just looking at the water cycle and through an animation of just one molecule of water as it completes a hydrological cycle. Another component of this lesson is discussing the role of the sun in the water cycle, because without the sun's energy, water could not move from the Earth's surface to the atmosphere and back again. So consequently, the sun's radiation, as it heating the surface, and the water molecules in the surface waters, oceans, lakes, and ponds absorb the radiation. It breaks the bonds, the hydrogen bonds, and those surface water molecules absorb enough energy to change from a liquid to a gas. And this process again is called evaporation. And this is moving water from a solid surface up into the Earth's atmosphere, and where it will then pass back into a liquid state and come back to Earth in the form of precipitation. Now, water enters the atmosphere in another way as well, which is through transpiration, where the leaves of the plant, of course, have a large surface area that is exposed to the air, and this leads to the evaporation of water from the surface of the leaf. So the transpiration is actually the movement of water from the soil through the root system up through the plant body and then expressed out on the leaves. And actually, plants lose water through evaporation. And there's several ways that happens. Now, water in the atmosphere now needs to return to the surface of the Earth, and you're going to be reviewing that in this portion of your lesson, where you're discussing how condensation occurs, how condensation nuclei help form clouds, the role of the sun in the evaporative process of the water cycle. And how clouds form as the condensation occurs. Now we know what goes up has to come down, and how does water get back to Earth? That is after condensation occurs and the clouds become saturated with a certain amount of water, that the water begins to fall back down to the Earth in the form of precipitation. And the form of precipitation, of course, is dependent upon the temperature and the climate where the precipitation is occurring. We know that most precipitation of Earth falls in our oceans. Nearly 97% of all the water on Earth is found in the oceans. And we also know that the water cycle can't be complete without learning about the freezing state, like ice sheets and glaciers and icebergs. And they're about the largest reservoir of fresh water that we have on planet Earth. That brings us to the term sublimation, where water goes from a solid state back to a gaseous state. Sublimation. Precipitation, of course, also falls on the surface. I'm sure that this week or within the past month, many of us have experienced a form of precipitation. And also, water moves along the surface in runoffs in rivers or streams. Infiltration is one way that water becomes purified by percolating down through the unsaturated zone, which we call soil, past the water table and down into what we call a saturated zone. That means that all the pores and cracks in the rock are filled with water, and that's called the saturated zone. This is where the source of groundwater comes from. It's from that saturated zone. So again, water moves from the liquid to the gaseous to the liquid and sometimes solid states in the water cycle. And when we do this incredible journey, you're going to see how dynamic this event is. It's not just this cyclic precipitation, runoff and infiltration, evaporation and condensation. The water molecules, for instance, in the ocean can be trapped in the ocean or remain in the ocean for a millennia, for 1,000 years, before perhaps having an evaporative event or moving through the water cycle in another manner. Just a quick review on that project that we're going to be doing. Please look forward to the next video on the incredible journey, where you're going to be tracing the journey of a water molecule as it moves through these 9 different stations of biotic and abiotic components of Earth, whether it's the water molecules in groundwater system, in ice, in lakes, within the ocean, rivers, clouds, plants, soil, or within animals. You're going to be tracing the water molecule and its incredible journey. We'll talk about that more later this week. Hope you enjoyed this overview and to learn more about the incredible journey of water. Please remember that our small groups are on Monday through Thursday, 10 to noon, and office hours 8:30 to 9. All right, enjoy. Please also look forward to your extra credit question secret question about something about the hydrological cycle. The question will be listed under your Watch It Now link. All right, take care now. Bye.